Heyo, and welcome back to my channel. As you can see, being married has made me so much more mature and so much more graceful, so it's been a little bit. I do have a good explanation for why I have not been posting a lot recently, and it's not just that I was busy getting ready for the wedding. That was one good excuse, but I have some other actually important issues going on, so I'll explain and apologize for those later. But today I would like to talk about when Jesus says that we need to be doers of the word and not hearers only. He has a whole parable about the seeds that fall on different kinds of soil, and some of them die, some are picked off, and some grow up and produce a harvest. And how when we hear the words of God and go live them out, that's what makes the difference. That's what builds the kingdom. That's what increases the harvest and makes our lives something that's fruitful and multiplies, like God commanded us at the very beginning in Genesis. Something that draws people to himself, something that takes the little bit that we have and turns it into something big and something beautiful and something worthwhile. And that's the kind of life that we're meant to live. Like, a seed is meant to be something that grows and produces so much more than itself, not just a seed that grows up, is a cute little plant for a while and then dies. So I feel like God was convicting me about some of the ways that I tend to be a hearer and not a doer, and I thought I'd just talk about that a little bit. I don't know, I feel like a lot of times I'm in my quiet time writing down in my journal the things that I feel like God said to me that day, because as I do. And so many times he says something good and something beautiful, and I'm spending that special time with God, listening to what he has to say to me, and sometimes he'll tell me to do something or give me some idea or some impression or explain how something would go. And I'm like, oh wow, yeah, that's a good idea, I should do that. And I'm thinking about it and I'm just dwelling on that, and then I go live my day and I never really do that thing. And not that he ever specifically commands me to go and do this thing exactly, that's not how I've ever taken it, but I've been thinking about, I don't know, maybe I should, maybe this is God telling me to do something and I'm literally sitting here just not doing it. And I feel good and I feel comforted and stuff, but how much better would it be if I really literally just went and did this thing? And so many times it's like, oh, I don't have the time, this is my special time with God, but then the rest of the day, I have things that I need to get done. I don't have time to spend extra, or I do something else and I completely forget and I don't ever come back to it later. And I guess that's okay, but I just feel like, for one thing, I'm missing out, and then for another thing, I'm not obeying God. Good intentions are good, but they really don't matter without action to back them up. And so many times I have really good intentions about doing things, but I just don't do it. For example, when I'm thinking so much about how I'm going to text that person and figuring out what I'm going to say, being like, okay, I need to do that, and I've thought about it in detail so many times that I become convinced that I texted them. And then I open that months later and I'm like, oh my gosh, I have not talked to them in a month because I was sure that I texted them. I promise I wasn't ignoring you. Sorry guys. It's well and good to think about that and have that imaginary conversation in my head, but does it ever further the relationship with that person? No. Did I ever actually answer their question and give them what they needed? No. Another example was from the honeymoon. I'm really bad at being still, and I'll probably make a whole other video about this, but I felt like God was saying to trust him and to come to him and just be with him and be still. And I was writing about that in my quiet time and thinking about, oh yeah, how sweet and precious it could be to go spend time with God and just be sitting with him in nature, just me and him, calm and peaceful, and praying, and how I think that would be good and really helpful for me instead of making me stressed out and lonely and worried and stuff sometimes it tends to do. So I was thinking about that, and then I was closing my journal and getting done with my quiet time, and God was like, no, go spend some extra time, just me and you. You can't just sit here and think about how good it would be if you did that thing. You need to actually go do it. So I went and I actually spent a lot of time with God, which is something I'm kind of scared of. Just sitting there, not really having anything to do, not having any thoughts pouring through my head, not sitting there trying to think of what to journal, or sitting there actively reading the Bible, just spending time with him in the silence. That's really scary. But I went and I did it, and it was good. And I feel like a lot of times too, maybe I'm upset about something, hurt about something, worried about something, and I think about kind of imagining myself telling God all about it, and spending that time in the darkness thinking about how I feel about this and explaining and working through everything, and then imagining him comforting me and how good it would be and stuff. And then I come away comforted, picturing him comforting me, but I never actually took the time to unearth what's in my heart and dive through the depths of that with him and have him walk through it with me and give me that comfort himself. I can kind of check the system and imagine what he would say to me, or how kind he would be to me, and then walk away content with that, rather than being willing to put in all the hard work of emptying myself and needing him to give me that comfort and to fill me, and to wait for him to say those things to me instead of imagining, oh, this is what he would say, and feeling happy about that. It's good that I know the heart of God and I know what he would say to me, but I do feel like I can tend more towards imagining this stuff, and it's not actually a part of my relationship with God that I've truly walked through with him. And there are times, where God tells me I need to apologize to someone for something or confess something to someone. I'm like, oh man, that's really hard, that's really scary, but like, I love you, you're right, like I need to do this work in my heart. This is keeping me from you, this is keeping me from my relationship with them, and I'm sorry. And so I'll do the work of, apologizing to God and confessing to God, and then walk away forgetting that I need to go apologize to a person or confess to a person, and being like, oh, my relationship with them will be okay because I just made things right between me and God, and now I'm gonna be different, and like my heart has changed, and he's forgiving me and healing me, and I can just move on from this, and I don't actually have to do what God told me to go do to actually restore the relationship. That's another way in which I try to be a hearer and not a doer. I'm like, oh yeah, you're right, I should apologize, and then just don't, and kind of hope that God forgot about it. Like I distracted him enough with praying about him and me and didn't actually go deal with me and this other person. And it's not like there's no value in spending that time thinking about the comfort that God would give me and making my heart right with God in addition to apologizing to someone else. But it's like there's so much more that he has for me, and so much more that he wants me to do and to be and to live out that I feel like I haven't been. And kind of living in my own little imaginary world and thinking that I'm a great person for doing this great stuff, and really I've just only done it in my head. And I feel like my relationship with him could be so enhanced by me beginning more to actually live out my faith and actually follow him, and not just think about, making these comments about my relationship with God in front of my coworkers or things like that are like scary, and be like, oh yeah, I guess I could do that, and then never actually doing it when the opportunity comes up. Like I want to be able to be that vulnerable person instead of just thinking about how I would be if there was like this exact specific right circumstance and it happened to be exactly the right time and it fit perfectly into the conversation, stuff like that. Like I want to be an authentic person, and I'm living my life pouring out Jesus because that's who I'm thinking about, that's who I'm spending time with, that's who I'm being influenced by the most. I don't want to be the kind of person that just thinks about God in my quiet time and doesn't let him out, and makes these YouTube videos and talks about being a Christian and doesn't live it out the way that God is convicting me to. I want to deepen my relationship with God like this. I want to listen when he tells me to do something, and not just think that it's like, oh, a nice suggestion or a nice thought, but like, this is a command from the keeper of my heart. And do I want to disobey this? Do I? Like, for one thing, I'm disobeying the king of the universe, so that's pretty bad. And then for another, I'm really just selling myself so short, because obviously he has so much good that he was going to do for me through that. And I was just like, nah, too much trouble, or like, oh, I'm not super comfortable with that, or like, man, that's awkward, or like, oh, that's embarrassing. Man, that'll just take so much time that I don't have for you. And so I don't. But really, that is not the kind of life that produces a harvest, and it's not the kind that glorifies God and that draws other people to him or leads me closer to him any faster. And so he's just been really convicting me about that, and I thought I would share that maybe be encouraging to someone else, that we really need to be doers of the word and not hearers only. It's very important. Thank you for watching, and goodbye until more interesting things happen.